In a recent interview, when asked about the potential and the teases that both James Gunn and Kevin Feige previously talked about, aka Marvel Studios and DC crossing over, James Gunn provides us an update saying that nothing is impossible and he believes it could actually happen down the road. So as both of you know, years ago at this point, after James Gunn joined DC Studios, he talked a little bit about his relationship with Marvel Studios, with Kevin Feige, with Bob Iger, and how he still keeps in contact with them and that they're friends. And talking about what he's doing, he says, yeah, look, obviously Marvel and DC are rivals, but we're all friends. We're all hoping the best for everybody. It's not like super fanboy wars that take over the industry. And he says, we're both right now aiming to deliver the best thing that we can. And then in this interview with Rolling Stone magazine that he just did, he's just point blank asked about a potential crossover. And I'm going to read that in its entirety in the next part of the video. But what you guys need to know is that a crossover is possible, which again, I'll talk about. But right now, DC Studios is in an interesting position. They are right now starting, right? They don't have a single project to their name. And I know people are going to say Creature Commandos and The Suicide Squad and Peacemaker are canon. Yes, but Superman is their real big one, right? This is their first showing. This is where they're going to try to go out there and deliver something that can be a foundation like Iron Man was, to build a universe. And if they hit this mark, like Marvel Studios, they're off to the races. So I'm going to read what James Gunn said in his entirety. It's a pretty lengthy quote, so bear with me. So let's talk about what he said and told Rolling Stone magazine about a potential crossover. So James Gunn said, and I quote, "We've talked about it a billion times. That could easily happen. But simultaneously to that, I think it would be interesting. But also, think people are a little over it. I think people want to see good stories with their superheroes, and that's what matters. And they want to see different types of stories with their superheroes. And people love superheroes. That's obvious. But they need more variety. And they need to just make quality storytelling. And so you have Spider-Man and Superman team up. Isn't just going to do it itself if it's complete SHIT. So it's got to come from a real place, and it's really hard to make that work. I did Superman because I love the character, and I was excited about writing that movie. If I were to write a Superman versus Spider-Man movie, it's a concept I'm going to like. Oh yeah, this could be a great film. Or am I going in because, oh yeah, people want to see Superman and Spider-Man team up? For me, it would have to be, if I were to ever do that, it has to be under someone who thought it was going to be awesome and wasn't just a cash grab. Because I'm just not into that. End quote. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here, so I just want to focus on the first part of this before we get to the rest of it. Obviously, he's exaggerating a little bit, but he says, we talked about it a billion times. What people need to understand is these talks happen. Studios want the money. If there's an opportunity, and if you're back up against a wall, you will do whatever you can to make money back. Remember Sony. You guys remember how we were some of the first people here on YouTube to say, oh, it's going to happen after TASM 2. Just looking at the box office reception, and people were like, nope, you guys are wrong. We were right. We were literally the first to say, hey guys, by the end of this decade, Disney's buying Fox, and don't be surprised that Fantastic Four is the first reboot among their catalog. Again, we were like 5 years ahead on that. You got to look at the corporate speak, the trajectory, and the opportunity to make everybody more money. Yes, they've talked about it. A billion times? No. But probably a few dozen times at that when they get together. And I need to explain to you guys what would make this work. and why James Gunn is specifically saying Superman and Spider-Man, because I think that's important here. So obviously James Gunn says and mentions, what's the reason for Spider-Man and Superman just fighting each other or just meeting up? I can't just write something in there that's like, oh, we're doing it for the sake of money. And I get it. He's throwing some shade here at WB and Batman v Superman. They didn't do that because they had a groundwork and they had a big plot and an idea or anything like that. They did that because they wanted MCU money. James Gunn knows this. And you know who else knew this? Zack Snyder. He literally said when they came out and announced Batman v Superman and the entire DC slate, they handed him a piece of paper and he was like, how are we going to do this? And they were like, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. Just announce all this. Because the initial idea was Man of Steel 2. That was going to be the announcement up until it wasn't, up until WB changed their tone. So that's the change that happened here that's really important to this whole thing. And people really need to understand that. And when you look at the bigger picture and what he's saying here, there needs to be a reason, motivation, and a will from everybody that's not just a cash grab. And make no mistake about it, James Gunn would be the one to put his foot down and go, no, we can't just jump into this. Zaslav would literally be like, what do we need? We want some of the rub of the Avengers box office. He wouldn't care what has to be done because he doesn't care. We've seen that. So this is a small step at a time, getting to that crossover and getting to it and what to do with it and how to do it. And I think in due time, we will probably hear a little bit more if the DCU is successful. Now, I know people are going to say, how do you do it? What's the reason? What's the story? How do they handle this? Here, we haven't done this in a while. If you guys really want it enough, leave me a comment. I will do the old school where I used to fantasy book how I would do this, how I would bring in Spider-Man, how I would bring in the Fantastic Four, how I would do this, how to bring in this character or that character or merge this into this. I will do that again. It's not going to be quick. It's probably going to be like a month from now. I want you to know if you guys want it enough, I'm going to lay out some notes. I'm going to work on something, and it's probably going to be like a 15-20 minute video. But I will break down how I would do it, and it would be years in the future, obviously. So if you guys want that, let me know in the comments. I will fantasy book it. It'll be a video down the road that I release, and hopefully you guys like it. So, yeah, there's a lot here to unpack, and I truly do think that it will happen down the road, but it's a far way off. Thank you for checking out that video, and thank you for your continued support. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, do whatever you will, and if you're so inclined and would like some additional content from us, which includes unfiltered content and bonus discussions, we do offer exclusively in our member section. We hope to see you there. So thank you for watching and have a good one.